Welcome to the Homeschool Together podcast. Where one working mom and a stay-at-home dad help you navigate the nuts and bolts of the growing and dynamic world of homeschooling.
With a focus on early learners, like me.
All the ins and outs of building and maintaining your homeschool life.
Homeschool.
Find out tips and tricks to make things like this easier.
I'm reading.
And ultimately, enjoy educating your kids. And what's that last thing?
Have fun together. Did I do good, Daddy?
Yeah, you did, sweetie. Good job. Hello, friends and families. Welcome back to Homeschool Together. Thank you for joining us. If you have a chance and you'd like to support the podcast, if you can, hit the like and subscribe button on YouTube. Subscribe to our podcast if you just found us. That'd be great. We can get into your inbox every Monday. And, kind of littered throughout all our show notes. I work hard for you guys, and I do. And I want to make sure you have everything. That's one of, as somebody who's been consuming podcasts for nearly, 20 years, not 20, almost about 18 years. Pretty reliable. Back when I used to have to upload my podcasts onto my iPod Nano, and my old, the brick iPod with the click wheel.
The original.
The OG. Yeah, that was
round
really good.
Scroll wheel, yeah.
And I had to manually copy them from iTunes onto phones. That's how far back I go on podcasts. The number one thing I always loved was, somebody, you're listening to someone and you're like, oh, wow, what, I wish there was a link I could go and click on that thing.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, so I put a lot of links in the show notes for you guys, and we're recommending things and whatnot. A lot of the times those things are affiliate links, and if you click on them and you buy stuff, even if you have to buy toilet paper, you can
That's true.
Go ahead and do that. Yeah, we know how valuable resource in the last 4 to 4.5 years. We learned how valuable toilet paper can be in situations, and so yes. So anyway, today we're going to continue on with our discussion from last week, where we talked about removing a lot of the challenges of traveling and getting our families out there. Ariel, between when we last recorded and now, started talking to me a little bit about an app to help her pack. She wants to give you a little bit of a pre-bonus content from last week's podcast. I want to teach you a little bit about a separate thing before we get into talking about how to take your homeschool on the road. Ariel says she left something off. So go ahead, Ariel.
Yeah,
you have
I
the
was
floor.
I didn't tell them. It's an app called PackPoint.
PackPoint.
Right. So it's free, but you can get the full version for $3 lifetime. So I just went ahead and got the free version, or the lifetime version. I went ahead and paid for it. So what it does is you put in the place that you're going to and the date. And then you put in whether you're male or female, and whether you're going for business or leisure, and what kind of activities you're going to do there. Are you going to go swimming? Are you going to go hiking?
Working out.
Yeah, you're going to run. There's a bunch of different activities. And then depending on what you click, then it's going to basically determining the weather. It's going to tell you, and you say how many days I'm going for and whether I have the ability to do laundry, and it's going to make a complete pack list for you.
That's awesome.
And it's just suggestions of what you should pack. One of the things that you can do, that's all in the free version. The $3 lifetime version is the ability to make custom changes to those. So they have a bunch of categories. They have toiletries and all the stuff for your essentials, snow sports, working. It's all the things it's going to suggest to you for those categories. And so you can go ahead and change them. For example, they had in toiletries, they had an eye mask. I don't personally ever travel with an eye mask, so I don't need to see that on my suggested pack list, no matter what time of year it is. So there's just different items like that. And so you can customize and change those, or if you've got, and you can make custom categories of a custom activity. So let's say it's homeschooling. So I could put in homeschooling as a custom activity, and I could have it suggest, I could put in all the things I might need for homeschooling. What's nice about this is when we're going to pack for a trip, or especially if we're going to go spontaneously and go over a weekend or something, sometimes it's hard for me to think of absolutely everything, but I will think of stuff in the middle of the week when we're not going anywhere anytime soon. I'm like, oh yeah, I should always remember to pack blah. So this is really nice. And then you can save your pack list, and it'll also sync with the app TripIt. If you have your like car rental and flight information stuff in there, it'll all like sync together. So super cheap app to help you slim down your packing.
Can you save and title pack lists? So if you say weekend camp trip, you can have a set pack list, almost like a checklist in some respect.
Yeah, so you can you basically, it saves it by the location that you're going to. So if I say there's a new trip, I can go back to my saved trips, and it's going to tell me just the name of the place and the dates.
Okay, cool.
Is how it's going to save the different lists for you. But I think it's really cool just because it takes into account the weather, how long you're going, and what kind of activities, and it thinks of all those things. And so you could use this also for like camping, because that was one of the options, and it would say, your tent and all your supplies and things. So I love that you can put in there what the essentials are that you usually take for all these different activities or even custom activities, and it's just going to spit out this big list for you to either say, you can either delete the items off the list, or you can just check them off as, so you can delete off what you don't need, and then you're left with a really great pack list for yourself. So I think it's like super, super neat and very cheap, and I wanted to share with you Pack Point.
Pack Point, it will be in the show notes, because if I didn't, I'd be a hypocrite. Let's move into taking the show on the road, and the show being your homeschool. We talked about last week about getting out of the house, traveling. Ariel had this great idea about building out travel ideas using Google Maps, and then managing that and tracking your ideas, talking about travel. But the big thing that we were trying to do with this vacation is to use it as a homeschool opportunity.
Totally.
And a lot of times, homeschooling needs to be taken on the road. I mean, that's true even just within the week, and maybe from day to day. We need to be mobile with our homeschool, and being mobile with our homeschool while we travel, especially when we're going as long as sometimes our trips are. We need to take that show on the road. And the first thing that we do is obviously go digital with whatever we are doing. And a lot of times we are actually considering the curriculum choices as we are moving from one location to another. We are saying, well, I cannot bring my All About Reading curriculum with the giant binders and the readers and all the sheets and all the stuff. We will either pause the curriculum or time it so that it kind of ends at that time period. Not like the week before. If the curriculum ends a little early, that's fine. We just go ahead and move into something like an Explode the Code, where we put it into a binder. It's very narrow. Maybe we actually, like last time we went to Orlando, I actually tried to like work out how many homeschooling days the kids would have in the morning, and I only took that number of sheets. So I didn't even take the full, like I think a Explode the Code workbook might be 80 pages, right? I'm not going to do 80 pages when I'm in Orlando going to parks and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm probably only going to get maybe 15 or 20 pages done. And so that's all I took. And consequently, I also took only a certain amount of the Beyond the Code pages. So my binder was extremely slim, and I was able to stack, math problems and math pages and everything into one single binder that was super tiny and super slim. And it gave me a lot of materials, because we took advantage of the digital curriculums that we were able to print. You may even think about taking digital curriculums on iPads, because a lot of times we are taking tablets to entertain the children on the flights and the travel there. And those curriculums can be put onto mobile devices that you may already be taking along with you.
I think the PDF curriculums, it's great. If we ever get an option, if there's, Right Start Math is a great example where there's an option for the regular student workbook, or it's $10 more for the digital PDF. We always go for that. Not only can we use it for our next child coming up, but also we know, like you said, that we can just print the pages that we want at any one time. So even if it's just taking that book to older sister's volleyball game or whatever it is, we just only have to take the pages that we need. It's very easy. It's also great when we're going to be packing up the kids to travel to grandma's for the week. We can just slip in the 4 or 5 worksheets that they need from the curriculum, and then it takes down the number of books we've got to send with them. So when we ever get that opportunity, we always do that. And another thing that we were talking about before we started with digital curriculums or PDF is you have the ability to print when you get somewhere. So if you're traveling around and you might need a large number of, like I don't have to print this and fly across the world with, the entire book. I can just take a few pages and then I'll just print it when I get there. Yeah. And that's something that you don't have to lug around. So those are great ways when you're considering having to take paper.
Well, and managing those curriculums, I think is something, just kind of another slight wrinkle that you do that I think you do really well is you manage those digital curriculums not on your local computer, but in the cloud on like Google Drive. Right. So when you get to that destination, you don't have to worry like, oh, did I bring the thumb drive? Did I do this? No, you just sign into Google, Docs, you find the Kinko's or the FedEx print in the nearby area, or maybe if you're within the state, maybe you could still use your library services if that's still a thing. And then you go ahead and print them there. Yeah. And you don't have to actually worry about like bringing the document or bringing the file or whatever it might be. So it's always there at your fingertips. I think that's something you do a really good job about is managing those digital curriculums so that they're always available.
And that's, I think, a really great point. If you're doing something like, let's say you talked about the library, let's say we're doing Build Your Library, we're doing a Blossom and Root, I can go ahead and check the books out from the library as ebook versions so that we can view them on a tablet, or I can even view them in like the Libby app or on my laptop when we get someplace. So I can even, I can pull up the Blossom and Root curriculum out of Google Drive and I can read the activities we're supposed to do. And then when it's time to read the actual reader book, I can pull that up on whatever app is synced to our library. It doesn't matter if we're in another country because I already checked that book out. And so we can review it on that device. And then I don't have to carry all these storybooks with us either, which works really great. One of the things that we've done recently as well is we invested in a Yodo. We talked about this on our gift guide. I want to say 2023, but it's a screen-free reader. And so it does all kinds of audiobooks and stuff, and you can buy those. But what you can also do is go ahead and load books onto there. So there's tons of great audiobooks. Our daughter's recently listened to Little Women and then Little Men and Joe's Boys, and she's listened to that whole series. She's listened to Anne of Green Gables. So you can get a whole bunch of stuff on, I want to say it's LibriVox. It's all that's open source. Or if you have an Audible, you've got the Audible credits and you can actually buy the MP3s. Anyway, you can load all of this up to the Yodo site, and then you can make your own card or play from the Yodo app on your phone or tablet, anywhere that you're at. So when we travel, we don't have to travel with a whole bunch of books. And I have a number of our homeschooling books, especially if they're older, the ones that Christina Garner uses for Blossom and Root. A lot of those are in the public domain. And so it's really easy to get those. And then I've got audiobook versions of them without having to take a whole pile of stuff. I can either take a single card and the little Yodo player and just keep rewriting that same card through my phone with these other books, or I can actually play through the app on my phone. Or you can play through like the Libby app with your library. So there's lots of ways to like take books with you without taking books.
And while we were in Ireland and Orlando, my Libby account, because I was listening to audiobooks, driving to, the parks and whatnot, and with the girls in the back enjoying themselves, my Libby app worked perfectly fine. Overseas, outside of Washington, all of that type of stuff, it all worked just fine. I was able to get new books and never had a single problem. So really leverage the Libby app if you have that connected to your local library system. I really think that's a great option. You can also, through Libby, either read it on Libby, like on a mobile device, like your phone, or you can do it on a tablet. If you're also encouraging your children to have like maybe an e-reader, like a Kindle or something like that, you can check out the book via Libby and then send that to your Kindle through Amazon. So they kind of go to Amazon, you check it out of Amazon, and then that is sent directly to your Kindle. And then after the 21-day period or whatnot, Amazon pulls that book back as the checkout process. So I've done that a number of times, and that's been a great option too. So if you're trying to leverage your like readers, or you're trying to get the whatever the book is that you're doing for your curriculum, you can even also check that out to your Kindle as well. So if you're going for 2 weeks, check it out before you leave. It's on your Kindle if you're a big reader, and you can swap and jump into whatever
great.
book. There's a ton of options to get your materials digitally and get yourself mobile, because if you're going to already bring those devices with you, you might as well utilize them as part of your homeschool as well.
The other thing is trying to limit what you have to bring. This is where when we typically travel, or we're taking things kind of on even short road trips and things, we try to just focus on the core stuff. It's like we know that wherever we're traveling, there's going to be enriching things there, so we're trying to focus on our math and our reading. We can have the kids practice handwriting. We can probably incorporate art. We're going to be learning about things. So usually history and social studies are things we know we're going to learn about. There's oftentimes been, we've found science concepts to learn about when we're traveling. There's all kinds of things. So we tend to really think carefully about not bringing like everything in the kitchen sink, even if it's digital, because that can just be a lot to juggle, even, trying to keep all these digital versions, and how many pages do I have to print of each thing. So I think there's a balance between keeping the core important stuff and a few items to keep your kids busy. We always travel with like coloring pages and things for our youngest. So, that as well. And some handwriting sheets for our oldest, just to keep that fresh. But
we do like to pick up a lot of those resources while we're there as well.
We sure can.
Yeah, like when we go, we'll bring a base little packet of like pencils and coloring pencils and maybe some markers. But when we actually get to the location, we do like to go, we go to food shopping, but we'll go over and get some art supplies and get some paper and whatnot. Things that you don't really need to bring with you, but you may need while you're there. I tend to like to pick up a little bit of homeschool supplies while I'm there. Just, loose leaf paper, no line paper, like printer type of paper, and just, giving them opportunities to do random stuff, and having those, not have to bring those is such a nice option as well.
Yep. I think that's a key. And then it's going to be a lot about how you organize this. Are you going to do binder? Or do you want to do like one binder and do tabs in it for each child or each subject, so you can keep those pages separate? We're a big like Google Docs, Google Sheets kind of family. So we love to plan in there. So we'll have a list for each kid of like, okay, this is the stuff we're bringing with us. This is what we're going to try to get through. Here's kind of our pacing. And we kind of have that all in one place. And then that can direct us to say like, okay, this book is on the Kindle. This book is in Yodo. We're going to do this, and it's through this piece. So if you have to game plan and have various digital sources, having some sort of a master key is really helpful to know where to go to source those pieces.
Especially if you have them in disparate locations.
Exactly. Because there's all these different systems. Depends on your library and then where you sent each page. Maybe you have one child who's actually reading on a Kindle and another child who has to listen on your phone and another, it can be a little complex. I will say that it's not the easiest thing to travel, and it's not like being at home where you have everything at your disposal and you can really sprawl. You do have to be a bit more careful and definitely more organized. So whichever system works for you, but definitely don't leave home without some sort of, overarching document or spreadsheet or something that helps you kind of keep everything organized.
Almost like a plan.
It's your plan.
And I don't think it's kind of crazy to think like, okay, we're there for, let's say 18, 19 days, 20 days or whatever. And you to kind of put together a little bit of a homeschool plan, knowing like, okay, these are big days. We're probably not going to do much there. But, here are a couple of mornings that we're going to be doing. Like when we're overseas, when we were in Europe with the kids, you kind of slept in the morning because you were up late, because you were syncing your schedule with the West Coast time. And so the morning, I took the advantage of the morning to do the homeschool. So the girls would get up, they would have breakfast, and I would go ahead and do an hour or so of homeschool at that time, while you were kind of like waking up in the morning, and I would take care of that, and they would be out of the way for the day. So really finding that sweet spot, I think, is helpful, and having those documents and those plans can really, I think, help you be efficient with your time, but also achieve the things with respect to homeschooling that you want to achieve, even though you're out of the location or away from home.
And once you finish with what you're doing,
Yeah.
having that plan document, that Google Doc, it's a great location to upload a picture of the completed assignment. So we don't have to bring back completed worksheets with us. We can just take a picture for our records and then toss that sheet away, and it can keep it all within that one Google Doc. If you're going to do artwork while you're over there, especially if you're involved in a charter or a co-op or parent partnership or something where you need to show evidence of what you've done, it's great to just do all that record keeping digitally and not have to worry about like hauling all this paperwork home.
Yep. I think going off and saying, you've brought your stuff, you've efficiently, packed your materials, using the location as your homeschool spot is, I think, embracing that is I think, peak homeschool. We kind of laughed about it, like traveling for a long period of time to a location, to enrich your homeschooling experiences. It's like peak homeschooling in a lot of respects.
Yeah. You're not just traveling. You're getting something out of it from the local area and finding all the cool ways that there are to learn there.
We're back after a short little break here. Ariel had to take the bread out of the oven and everything, and we've kind of lost our train, but it's okay. We're gonna get back to it. I think embracing the local stuff, I think, is probably the most important. The thing. It's one of the things. It's like you're going home. You're going on this travel. Okay, I don't think going to Orlando to go to Disney World is like kind of homeschooling related, but
no, but we did a lot of stuff.
We did.
We went to Epcot, and there was a ton of stuff about different countries.
We went on a lot
there.
of nature hikes. We went to certain things that had a lot of educational experiences.
We went to the aquarium. Actually, there was a whole lot of stuff.
More than now that I'm looking back on it, we did a pretty good job there. But using that location as kind of like the basis for your homeschooling, we laughed because we kind of used Ireland as sort of like the country study in a lot of respects, right? When you get out of the country and you're going to this location, if you happen to be doing an around the world journey, or you've done an around the world journey recently, you can embrace the country that you're in because you had that experience in the sense that we read books about that area, we know how to search things in that area, we know how to like go visit things and learn about things in that area.
But it's great, whatever time period you're studying in history, you may find things in that local area that correspond with that
time,
right? If you're going to a country that has a different language, of course, we have some friends who are traveling for multiple weeks, like 5 weeks in Mexico, and they signed up to go to a Mexican classes for Spanish classes, and the classes are not just teaching them Spanish. They've done all kinds of cultural things. They've gone on field trips, and they've had these wonderful experiences there as a family. So they're really taking advantage of being in that area. They've been to Chichen Itza, and they've done all kinds of great stuff. And so wherever you're going, there's going to be some element, whether it's science, whether, if we're hoping to go around the Western desert areas here in the next couple of years, and want to do some dinosaur stuff. So, there's going to could be great opportunities for science, or there's great opportunities for history or culture stuff. So, really look at what's in your local area and how you can leverage that. And if you can substitute something that you would have done in your homeschool for something that corresponds to the local area. So maybe you have regular writing assignments in your homeschool. Instead, you're going to make those writing assignments about things that you're seeing on your trip or things that you're experiencing. So, if you can leverage that area, I think it just helps to enhance all of the learning that's happening, and it helps you to keep your materials slim as well.
It's something that you were doing, and I think going forward we may do a little bit more of that, is kind of like using it as sort of like an educational thing where you are logging what you're doing. You like you were talking about the scrapbooking, journaling.
Yeah, it's so great.
It's such a great way to leverage the experience into a homeschooling activity that your young ones can either remember or start a new passion, for example, being the journaling. Like if you want to do a travel journal, that may lead into diarying, doing a diary or a journal going forward, if that's something new that you want your child to do. You obviously did the scrapbooking. You did it digitally on Canva,
Right.
but
we also printed.
But we printed images as well.
We printed images with our little Canon Ivy printer, and
Yeah.
then we wrote what we did that day, and our girls got really into it. And
They really
you can
did.
find online, there's several different brands of journals that are made for very young children, where they only have to draw what they experienced instead of having to write, but you can also scribe for your young children. So, journaling is a great thing to do too. I think overall, though, when we're traveling, the biggest piece of this is to maintain flexibility.
I think so.
We have goals for the year of where we want to get to in our different subjects and things, but and we have regular routines. But when we're traveling, or even if that's going for a week to grandma and grandpa's for the holiday or whatever it is, I think we just have to be flexible. Not every day is going to work out the way that we planned, because even if we brought our materials with us, those plans of doing that math, sometimes it's like, oh gosh, it's been 3 days. We got to catch up on all that stuff. So, don't be afraid that to be flexible, because you're in a new environment. There's lots of great things to see. If you don't get as far with your work as you had hoped, it's, maybe some of it's not the end of the world. Maybe you can catch up, or you can just, catch up when you get home. That's another option. But maintaining flexibility is really key. You may always homeschool in the morning when you're at home, but when you're traveling, maybe you're out and about and exploring in the morning and you're homeschooling in the afternoon or the evening. Things might look differently. So kind of think about that in your mind, because for us, we want to go out and do the exploration when our kids are at their best time, because you've paid all this money to go on this trip, and you're only there once, and you certainly don't want to do it when your kids are at their like cranky time of day.
No.
So we may say, well, today we're going to focus on going out and seeing those sites and going to that museum when I think the 5-year-old is going to be at her quietest. Then we might have to struggle through homeschool a little bit later.
Yeah, I think also being flexible towards embracing the location and the activities that might be involved in it. Like you have here talking about like currency exchanges, ordering food in other languages.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't always have to be math problems and reading in the morning, right? Like we all know as homeschoolers, education is everywhere. And, the fact that you're in this new location, there's a lot there to leverage as with respect to homeschooling. Even just everyday activities that might be slightly different than what they're used to at home are incredible learning experiences. Engaging and asking to do things in other countries there may be some protocol differences and things like that they may have to learn and remember. There are so many opportunities that are available. So don't stress too much on like, okay, make sure we have to do 2 or 3 pages of X and 2 or 3 pages of Y in the morning.
Yeah, it can be stressful.
We're not that rigid in that respect. I just always make sure that I have materials ready, that if like, okay, this morning mom is sleeping in, but it's not Sunday or Saturday and you're off of work and I'm not going to be probably doing homeschooling on that day. We're going to go out and have fun and do that. But on those like weekdays where you're kind of you're working and you're having to wake up later in the morning, I'm going to take advantage of that hour or so.
We have a rainy day. We can't go out and do what we wanted to do.
Definitely going to do that.
But
But
homeschool.
Yeah, but I really, really want to stress, be flexible. Utilize the area you're in. I think there's just so many opportunities when we are traveling that we can get things outside of our math and reading, and I think there's other things we can do.
And definitely don't be afraid to utilize some different programs, your ChatGPTs or Bard or whatever, when you are traveling, to find ways to loop in education. Hey, I'm in this area, or today we're going to this museum. Suggest some activities or discussions we could have for this age group, or focus, what educational things could we focus on? And crowdsource some ideas from there, because that can give you, just expand more upon it. Like we've talked about using ChatGPT as an audio tour guide, which has been phenomenal on our last trip. We really enjoyed that feature.
When we went to Albuquerque, we used it a couple times.
It was so good, and we're going to absolutely use that when we travel with our kids, because it's audio. It can keep them engaged, especially in a museum setting. We can just give them a little earbud, and then they can listen in and they can learn something. So, use the tools that you have available to you. You don't have to come up with all of the ideas yourself about how to make every trip or every possible moment of the trip, tie into something educational, get some help.
And it's hard to get all those ideas. I mean, we don't have to be a one-man band. And that's really a big thing. And when we go on trips, we spend an extensive amount of time watching YouTube videos and reading blogs about that area and finding out, kind of hidden things. Because we kind of laugh about when you watch the travel videos, if you like, okay, we're going to London. Everybody goes to all the travel videos talk about the same 8 things.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, it's kind of funny.
And when you're there for 20 something days, you burn through the 8 things in 2 days. And then it's like, what am I going to do for the rest of the time?
Yeah, and then you discover this whole world of amazing things that you can do.
A lot of times we end up finding out, like, we end up searching for things that parents like to do in those areas. And you end up finding like where the good parks are, where like the jumpy house is, where the zoo is, and, like things that you would not normally go on when you are looking at like a vacation. When you see the young people doing their travel vlogs and living out of their vans and all the beautiful stuff.
They're only there for a few days. They're not going to go to the zoo.
Yeah, half the time they're in the nightclubs and they're dancing the night away. Ariel, we go to sleep at 9:00 at night. We can't stay up late like those young kids. But yeah, we like to look at and try to find like what are the things that parents like to do in that area, and that there's always a blog post or a video about that, and we could find these real nice diamond in the rough type of activities that we end up putting on, our list of things to do. And those, I can't tell you how many times we have found the back alley activity, and that is the most memorable thing that we ended up doing.
Not back alley in terms of risky or sketchy or anything, but
the thing that's off the beaten path.
The thing that a local might do. That's not something you would travel halfway across the world to do.
Eating lunch in Ireland at Muckross Abbey.
Oh yeah, having a picnic at this 700-year-old abbey.
Abbey that's like crumbling, and I'm sitting there eating a ham sandwich and teaching my daughter how to read in front of this like ancient abbey.
But it was such a great memory.
An amazing memory. Like that would never have made the travel vlogs. That would never have made the videos. It doesn't make the Rick Steves cut and everything. And I really embrace finding those special little moments when you're traveling. I think that being flexible enough to accommodate those is best.
And I think the other thing that we need to remember about travel is that there are so many practical skills and learnings that can take place through the entire travel process. We have a tendency as parents to, or the mom at least, I like take care of everything, right? I've got all the reservations and I have the passports and I'm in charge of where we're going and the maps and all the things. But it's something that now as our daughter is 9, but even our last couple of trips, I would share with her. Now we're going to go to customs. Customs is this thing where this happens, and I'm like explaining to her, and she's learning these practical skills of how to travel, and we're learning about national borders, and we're learning about different processes, and the airport itself, or the train station or bus station or wherever you're going. There's so much to learn. There's so much to read, and there's tons of practical skills.
And kind of like fake giving her the control, and it is like, okay, we need to go up to the board. I don't know where my plane flight is.
Do you see our gate?
You see our gate? You got to look for this city, and she'll look. Oh, there it is, B-17. So like in that action, she's learning and becoming more comfortable. And
we're talking to her about like, this is the way the airport's laid out. Hey, This is all going to be this way. It's all going to be. I want her as she grows up to understand kind of how all these systems work, because travel is not easy.
I think
There's lots of pieces.
I think in the next time when we go next year, I want to take a little bit more train rides, because I think trains would be kind of fun for the kids.
Yeah, I think trains are going to be really cool, and we're going to get to do some. There's going to be metro, and there's going to be surface buses and surface trams, and they're all going to have different systems, and just kind of helping them to gain some real world travel skills. We talked about pickpockets. Our daughter was talking about like, well, what does this mean? Like, what is a pickpocket? What do they do? How do we protect ourselves? How do we travel smart? How do we all of this like life skills? There's tons of life skills, and then you're in maybe another country or a vastly different region from your own. There's a bunch of like cultural skills and, how do we communicate with somebody that doesn't speak the same language as us? And here's maybe the app that we use, or here's how we can be gracious to someone else that has different cultural customs than we do. And there's a ton to learn that's way beyond math or reading, or any of the subjects we could tie in with the museums and things that we go to see. So don't forget about all the practical aspects and sharing them with your kids when you're able to. So hopefully that's helpful. A few ideas for how to take your homeschool on the road. Let us know if you got big trips coming up and how you're planning to adapt your homeschool to go. Thanks so much for joining us today and making us a part of your homeschool journey. Please engage with us on social media. Join our Homeschool Together podcast group on Facebook and find us at Homeschool Together Podcast on Instagram. We'd love to hear your feedback, questions, and recommendations. Until next time,
Happy homeschooling!